Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Matthew back with another episode of Watty's channel. I decided to kind of change up the point of view for this video. So I've been talking about a lot in my videos, certain figures that I feel are like mid-tier figures, bottom-tier figures, etc. I've also discussed how I've never actually gone through and did a full layout of my figures and put them in the order that, where I truly appreciate them. Episode 38, I did a my least favorite top 10. The following video, episode 39, I came back and did a top 10 most favorite. But again, it's all those figures that are in between. And so I've noticed that as I'm going through making my videos, I keep classifying certain figures in certain areas, like, number 35 or number 40. And so that's kind of like what I wanted to do today. I've already got a top 10, so I figured I'd just do a quick refresher, let you know where I had the original set. And then I'll probably start from 11 through 20, and maybe each video do an additional 10 figures until we complete the whole collection. Now, again, for this particular type of videos, I'm only going to do original figures. I'm not including any kind of customs, anything like that. So I did pull all these figures are they're duplicates, so they're not off of my primary display shelf. And just as a refresher, now this list obviously is questionable, and I'll let you know what I mean shortly. So when I did the top 10 most favorite, coming in as my all-time favorite LJN original was the Big John Stud figure. At number 2, surprisingly, I had Hulk Hogan. If you remember back when I did my first tournament back in March of this year, Hogan was eliminated by the custom originally, and then that custom was taken out by Stud in the third round. So he didn't even make it through, not even half the competition before removed. At number 3, when I first did the episode 38, I had Andre the Giant number 1 as my third all-time favorite figure. So when I wrote this list, I decided to kind of combine them. So at 3A, I decided to change it up, make Blackstrap Andre as my third favorite figure, followed by Series 2 Andre with short hair at 3B, and then at 3C, Andre number 1. Now, we could classify that as, 3A, 3B, 3C, as I wrote on here, or we could classify it as numbers 3, 4, and 5. Which, if we do it that way, I'm basically pushing all the other figures down spots. So for the sake of this type of tournament-ish, I don't know what to call it a tournament, but for this listing, I'm going to keep duplicate figures with the A, B, C, if they do have more than one figure. So at number 4, I had Kamala, followed by Greg the Hammer Valentine at number 5. Number 6 was the Big Boss Man, followed by Ultimate Warrior at number 7. I had Jim Neidhart at number 8, followed by the Warlord at number 9. And finally, I had SD Jones Hawaiian shirt at 10A, and of course, that would leave his 10B being the red shirt. So, this video, again, this is going to be the second part of the video. This will be numbers 11 through 20. Based on how these match up in the coming videos, the original video I did for my top 10 least favorite, I really think that a lot of those are going to change. I don't think I'm going to have the same 10 figures in the same lineup that I had the first time around. So coming in at number 11, I've talked about this figure quite a bit, and it is the Billy Jack Haynes figure. Again, all these figures here, they're all duplicates for me, so most of them are pretty bad shape. Well, not bad, but I mean, they're not obviously not worthy of my primary display. So Billy Jack Haynes has so many things that I love about this figure. First off, he has one of the greatest accessories with the beautiful hat, which meshes so well with the overall figure. Display wise, phenomenal piece, and I absolutely love some of the additional something like the tattoo on his arms, which are really solid, and you guessed it, fighting pose. Is it a top tier fighting pose? I think some of the other figures I have further down the list, I probably would classify a little bit better as far as playability. But either way, I still love this figure, and I think 11 out of 72 or however many figures there are is pretty reasonable for this type of figure. So with this particular types of videos, I'm not going to spend a lot of time giving backstories or anything like that. It's basically going to give a quick review of, my personal favorites for whatever reason I decide to give. So they could be 20, 25 minute videos, but I'm kind of looking at more like 15 minutes if I can. But I'm sure every now and then I'm probably going to start talking about some stuff, so that may not happen. But Billy Jack Haynes, number 11. At number 12, this was actually a huge surprise. I'm not surprised he's in the top 20. I'm just surprised he's this far up the list. So at number 12, I've got Outback Jack. And absolutely love the figure. It's fantastic. Don't know anything about the wrestler himself. I don't remember him wrestling. I've never seen anything video-wise later on. So again, I don't have it on this figure, but I do. The Outback Jack again comes with one of the better accessories. His accessory, again fits beautifully with the particular type of figure that he is. He doesn't have the greatest fighting pose, and neither one of these figures have decent body slam poses, which playability-wise for a wrestler, you've got to have that body slam pose. But there are just so many positives about the figure that I really enjoy that he easily shot himself up my list. And again, I knew he was going to be a top 20 figure. I just didn't realize when I pulled him off the shelf or when I pulled him off the additional rings that he was going to come up this high. Outback Jack, number 12. Number 13. A figure I've talked about on a consistent basis. It's a figure that I absolutely love, and one that I use probably as much as any other figure, maybe outside of Greg Valentine, and one I truly believed was going to be in my top 10 when I did that first video way back when I made that video. I don't know, May of this year possibly, if I had to throw out a date. I'm just guessing. But at number 13, I've got King Kong Bundy. Now, the thing that you notice about these first three figures, not a single one of them have a good, body slam pose. And that right there is always crucial for a wrestling figure in my eyes. It's just such a simple figure, just pure black. So as far as, art decoration, stuff like that, graphics, he doesn't have any of it. And he also has one of the worst fighting poses you will find in any wrestling action figure ever. Yet, I keep mentioning it over and over again. This fighting pose for this particular figure works so well. It's just so enjoyable to use. And the weight of the figure, again, weight to me for action figures means value. Like Yokozuna for the Hasbro, King Kong Bundy for the LJNs. And just everything about this figure screams awesome. Not really too much I could say about King Kong Bundy. Headliner. Oh, some of my stuff falling over my ring over here. Let's see, who did he face? Was it WrestleMania 1 when he went up against Hogan? Because I kind of remember King Kong Bundy facing Hogan in an early WrestleMania, but I also think that it was Mr. T in WrestleMania 1. Maybe it was WrestleMania 2, because King Kong Bundy and Hulk Hogan, WrestleMania, that's what it was WrestleMania 2, and they were in that steel cage match. Even years later, just, when he'd been out of the WWF for like a million years, he comes back and, enters a Royal Rumble and everything. Just such an awesome character. I love this guy to death. I've always said at this figure that this fighting pose worked for this particular figure, where it doesn't work for others. Not too much more to say other than that. King Kong Bundy, number 13. He didn't crack my top 10, and falling back 3 spots in the next set of 10, to me, that kind of hurts a whole lot. Alright, number 14. One of the most elite figures of the LJN line. One of the most highly coveted figures. One of the most beloved characters, definitely of my life. And at best, that basically falls for anybody, really. So, number 14, Bret Hart. I thought that both Hart Foundation figures would make the top 10. I ended up putting Anvil in at number 8, but not Bret Hart in the top 10, which hurt a lot. And I thought when I decided to sit down and do this video that he would probably crack maybe number 11, maybe 12. I thought maybe Bundy at 11, Bret Hart 12, something like that. But so two of my more favorite figures, falling down this list a couple spots, more than I thought they would. But you actually play with the Bret Hart figure, it's a decent playability wise, but it's not the best. I mean, really, you've got that right-handed punch, which is really solid, but not much of a clothesline. Body slam, non-existent. His legs, as I've talked about with other figures, they are not spread far apart enough to the point where he himself can be body slammed. So, yes, it's a good-looking figure. Definitely one of the best of the LJN line, but it's just not my most coveted. Now, if I'm a collector and I'm going out and I'm trying to acquire LJN figures, yes, this is one of the most important pieces of the collection. In fact, this might be the most important, outside of, Series 6 figures. But kind of shocking to see him at number 14. But as I look at the figure and kind of talk about it a little bit, it becomes even more shocking to see him even in the top 20. Still, one of the greatest wrestlers, one of the greatest true wrestlers, that is, and definitely one of the greatest champions in history. Bret Hart, number 14. Number 15. Again, another figure I've talked about so much, and every time I bring it up, I mention this story. So, because I talk about the story, anyone that's heard this story 1,000 times, you can just pretty much fast forward if you want to. Anyone just watching this for the first time. So essentially, a year or two ago, I was watching Netflix. We all know this. We all know the story. Like Toys That Made Us, and I was interested in watching it because they talked about the Ninja Turtles. They talked about the old wrestling toys, and I knew what the type of toys I had as a kid were, the Hasbros, but I never knew who the manufacturer was of that line. And of course, when I heard the Hasbro, yeah, I'm very familiar with Hasbro nowadays, but I didn't know who they were back then. I knew if I ever saw the type of figure, I knew exactly, hey, that's the type of figure I had as a kid. I'd be able to point it out. And so I specifically watched that show because I wanted to see those toy lines. And they started talking about these 8-inch rubber figures. And so watching that video, I'm like, you know what? People, they're going to watch this show, and they're going to go flooding, retail stores, eBay, what have you, to try and acquire these figures. And I wanted to be a part of that. At first I thought I was going to be a seller, or strictly a seller. I really didn't have much interest in the figures themselves. The very first figure I ever acquired was a Nikolai Volkov figure. And I got the figure, and I held it in my hand, looked them over, and I'm like, dang, they got me. I kind of had to slow it down a little bit right there because I know those guys who watch my videos are probably sitting there saying it with me. It was such an awesome figure. I mean, I absolutely loved everything about the figure. The playability-wise was perfect. It had a great bulkiness. It was strong. It was movable. Not like Hasbro, you could move the arms up and down. But, I mean, it was still, rubber figure. You could still move it. And it was just a beautiful figure. And then I went out and acquired another figure, and then I just kept going. And it became more about acquiring figures for my personal collection as opposed to actually, buying and selling. I still do sell occasionally here and there, but again, when I bought these figures, they were personal for the most part. I mean, all the duplicates and all the triplets and quadruplet figures that I have, it's hard for me to get rid of these guys. They're just so awesome. So in the early stages of my LJN collecting, Nikolai Volkov, he was number 4. He was my 4th favorite figure. Now, the top 3, I could never decide how I wanted to rate them. Like, I would have Andre number 1 at my favorite, and then, Hogan maybe at number 2, and Stud at 3, etc. and then Nikolai Volkov would come in at number 4. As the collection grew over time, he started falling further and further down the list, and eventually lost the top 10 spot of my list of figures. Still, the only thing that I don't like about this particular figure is the hunchback right on his back and shoulders there. Other than that, I mean, the figure's beautiful. I hate the fact that his hands are too small, and his arms are just a little bit in too much. Kind of like the Billy Jack Haynes, the hands up there and in and tight. So that kind of doesn't make the body slam as crisp as, say, an Andre the Giant, but it's still a fantastic figure nonetheless. And I couldn't crack him into my top 10, but at least I got him in my top 20, and that to me is really important. Nikolai Volkov, this figure means a lot because, again, it is the first LJN figure I ever acquired. And yeah, so at some point we will get to the custom Nikolai Volkov, which is not a custom Volkov. It's a Sergeant Slaughter figure, but it just fits so beautifully with this particular figure. So Nikolai Volkov at number 15. Now this one, I don't know. I thought about pushing this one down the list a little bit further. I still think he deserves to be in the top 20, but does he deserve to be at number 16? I thought maybe 18 or something, maybe down a spot or maybe a couple spots, but I decided to keep Junkyard Dog right after Volkov. Same thing, Volkov was my 4th at one point, Junkyard Dog at number 5, and that was all due to the body pose, fighting attributes. And again, as more and more figures were acquired, he just kept falling further and further down my list until he fell off the top 10. Before I came down here to look at the shelves and look at the figures and figure out how I want to rate them, I never knew really anything outside my top 10, what I would have on these lists. So doing this 11 through 20, and then I'll probably still do the next set tonight because I got the camera down here or the computer down here. So I'll probably still do like 21 through 30, 31 through 40. Junkyard Dog, he's got a few attributes I like. For starters, he's got his legs far enough apart where you can do a good body slam on him. His arms are apart, so he can give you a lot of good fighting, cause a lot of damage if you're a kid and you're wrestling this guy. Punches, clotheslines. His body slam is good. It's just not the best. And what I mean is when you bring him up, he's essentially about stomach to chest high. You don't really have that beautiful Nikolai Volkov, for example, where he goes over the top type of body pose. And that's the reason why I kind of figured I've been pushing him further and further down. But at 16, again, I truly believe that the Junkyard Dog figure deserves a top 20 slot. If that means number 16, if that means number 20, irrelevant. It's a great figure. For this video, I am slating him in at number 16. At number 17. I always said that it doesn't matter if you're a referee, an announcer, manager, wrestler, everything is going to have its own due in my battles. I gotta make that better. So when I did my LJN tournaments, I didn't want to just do wrestler against wrestler and then come back and do manager against manager. A great figure is a great figure. And this next one at number 17 is about as good as you get. He is a manager. Yes, I have Freddie Blassie on my top 20 list of all-time favorite LJN figures. So I didn't really explain it too well, so I'm going to try and backtrack a little bit. So, Freddie Blassie, a manager, someone in his 60s, probably even 70s, possibly, I don't know how old he was, but at the time of this figure's manufactured. And a couple managers have this type of attribute where their fighting pose is about as good as any LJN you're going to find out there. The fact that he comes with an accessory is incredible. The fighting pose is very reminiscent of that of an SD Jones. Now I had SD Jones at number 10. So when I wrote down my list here, I decided to keep them in the way that I had described them back in my 38th episode, 39th episode. That was a top 10 favorite. But kind of looking back at that, I think that SD Jones was more of a number 7 or number 8 figure. I actually think SD Jones was a better figure than Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and probably even better than Warlord. So, but I decided to keep it as is. Same pose as SD Jones. He doesn't have the height or the bulkiness, which kind of kills it. And obviously his arms and hands aren't quite as big. Again, he's a manager. I don't think anyone was ever using him individually as a wrestler, but he is one of the greatest fighting wrestling figures that you're going to find in this line. Absolutely love the pose. Freddie Blassie at number 17. I didn't know if I was going to put him in the top 20 when I started this, but I was kind of looking at the figures over and over again, and he was really one of maybe 2 or 3 figures that really made any sense. So Freddie Blassie, number 17, once again. Coming at number 18. So this is where it started getting really difficult for me, because there's probably 1 or 2 figures on the shelf right now that didn't crack this top 20 list that really I thought what was going to be on here. And it made me kind of nervous because I kept talking about some of these figures as being some of the bottom tier figures, some of my least enjoyable figures. Figures that wouldn't crack the top 40, let alone the top 10, top 20, top 30. Eventually, I decided to go with a few other figures over them, and I still feel like it's the right decision. At number 18, one of the greatest display figures, I want to say, it is Hulk Hogan. So for the sake of this, we're going to say at number 18, 18A is the white shirt Hulk Hogan, and at 18B, the red shirt Hulk Hogan, since they're the same Series 5 figures, same pose. With this figure, I was kind of monkeying around with him earlier, and I'm like, you know what? He's a display piece. I don't think anyone was actually trying to use this as a wrestler. Not when you've got one of the best wrestlers in Series 1 Hogan. But the way that the leg is kind of curved like that, if you're a kid, you're throwing someone against the rope, you've got that big boot to the face, and the way that, it kind of curves, you drop that big boot on them, and the way that they pin the leg and everything, he doesn't have the necessary fighting pose that I covet, but they're just enough credible fighting sources from this figure that I just had to put him at the top in the top 20. Again, where in the top 20 was irrelevant. He just had to be on this list, and not anywhere even remotely close to having one of my favorite fighting poses. I still think the fact that this figure couldn't make the top 10, you have to have him in the top 20. It's a slap in the face if you don't. So Hulk Hogan, Series 5, and these figures, they were re-released on Black Card in Series 6, so for all I know, these figures I have, they could be, Series 6 figures, but for sake of argument, I've been calling them Series 5 the entire time. Hulk Hogan, Series 5, number 18. Number 19. I don't know, I might have to redo this because I didn't like the figure the first time I ever saw it, and it took me a long time to kind of warm up to this type of figure. It's not the best, and to be honest, I think a lot of people think it's probably one of the worst figures of the line. But it's playable, and that's what matters. Is it the best pose you've ever seen? Not even close. But Adrian Adonis at number 19. So I'm watching a lot of YouTube videos right now, old matches, and so many of them, feature Adrian Adonis. Hulk Hogan against Adrian Adonis. I think there was Roddy Piper versus Adrian Adonis. Multiple tag teams, like 3-on-3, Survivor Series type stuff. And Adrian Adonis just keeps on popping up on my YouTube feed for a lot of these old wrestling matches. And, you know, he doesn't do too much, but I'm still really enjoying his matches. And when you look at the actual LJN, I don't know if I have it up here. No, I don't. I may have bought a poster of the Adrian Adonis. So, sidetrack. I did finally get all of the posters displayed properly. So they kept falling off the wall, and so I had a bunch of gaps in between a lot of the posters. So I hired a handyman because, you know, I'm not very savvy myself, and I got everything lined up beautifully. At the end of the excuse me, at the end of that wall down that way, he had to pull about 4 Series 1 posters. You know, I have them lined up over here against the fireplace. I wanted to keep all Series 1 lined up over here, but, you know, I was gone at VA, so he was down here by himself, you know, getting his stuff loaded up, so, you know, you can't complain. It looks beautiful. Everything is situated. Set up this nice little ledge to keep them nice and tight, you know, nice and straight, so... Anyways, one of the LJN posters has him wearing the nice little pink scarf and whatnot, and one of his matches against Hogan, you just see Hogan just kind of use that as a weapon against him, choke him out, toss him around. So eventually I did get around to getting much more enjoyment out of the Adrian Adonis figure than I previously had. The first time I saw this figure, you know, again, it's one of those figures that you would buy only because you need it to complete the collection, not because you enjoy it or you really want it. But after looking all the figures over, it's really hard to leave this one off when some of the others just really couldn't really mesh well with what you're trying to do. So, fighting pose-wise, is it the best? He's got a punch. He's got a one-arm toss-over, which is okay. Body slam, yeah. That one-arm body slam, which I can't stand. But it's an acceptable figure. I'll just leave it at that. It's acceptable. It's not elite, but at least it does the trick. Adrian Adonis, number 19. Coming in at number 20. And this was a toss-up between this figure and one that I've been talking about for a really long time. One that I always felt might be number 35, 40, 45, somewhere in that line. And I finally decided to settle on Corporal Kirchner at number 20. So based on that, I could have... Again, this is just all of these figures that I brought out are duplicates. So I guess bearded Kirchner would be 20A, and then stubble at 20B, and then the clean shaven version at 20C. But this is a clean shaven version. I don't think I really have to show all 3 figures. Corporal Kirchner, I guess back in the day when Sergeant Slaughter left, 85, whatnot, you know, went to and signed on with Hasbro and G.I. Joe. And you still see a lot of videos today. They don't even refer to him as Sergeant Slaughter WWF. It's always like Sergeant Slaughter G.I. Joe, and it's pretty cool. So they obviously needed some kind of, you know, American soldier, and that's where this gimmick came into play. Highly doubt Corporal Kirchner was anything as successful as Sergeant Slaughter. I really don't know him too well. I don't think I've seen any of his matches, and if I have, I definitely don't remember any of them. I haven't been able to go back and watch any videos, you know, past WrestleManias or anything that featured him. At least that I can remember. So, I mean, it's a good figure. Again, from this point onward, you're going to see a lot of good figures, but nothing that really excel. You know, let me give you a prime example. So this is based on my first 10 figures of the line that I figure were the best. So you have 3 figures, because again I had Andre number 1 at number 3 originally. So you have 3 figures from Series 1. You got 3 more figures from Series 6, and then you have 1 figure from Series 2 and 2 figures from Series 4. Alright, so 1 figure from Series 2, 1 figure from Series 3, 2 figures from Series 4. Series 1, that was it. That is the greatest line of wrestling figures. You know, everything from Hogan, Stud, Andre, then you throw in Junkyard Dog and Nikolai Volkov. That's 5 phenomenal figures right there in the first series. And it just kind of goes downhill from there until Series 6, when you basically get about 3 or 4 more elite figures. And, you know, that includes Andre, Blackstrap, Warlord, Boss Man, Ultimate Warrior. And then you got, you know, some of the worst, like Rick Rude, and you mix that in with Series 1 with Sheik and you know, who else was under Piper, for example. And I love Roddy Piper, but it was just a bad figure. So I'm thinking when I go through this whole list and get them in order, 1 through 70, 1 through 75, 1 through 80, however many figures there are, I'm thinking the figures I originally had as my top 10 least favorite are gonna be altered. I don't think it's gonna stay in the same format. All right, so this video actually went a whole lot longer than I suspected. Yeah, so I guess we're probably gonna have to look at 20 minutes per video for this. Once again, it's Tuesday, October the 4th. So right now, I've already posted 4 videos. Or is it 3 videos? No, I posted 3 videos of the My Favorite LJN tournament. Do I want to cut into the My Favorite LJN tournament with this type of video? Essentially having 2 competitions going simultaneously. I don't want to do that because I kind of feel like people that watch this video are gonna kind of know where I'm going with my tournament. So I might put it in there. I haven't decided yet. So if you guys watch this and it's like November, December time frame, and you're like, why did you just wait 3 months to upload? Well, 2 months. Why did you wait a month and a half, 2 months to upload a video? Yeah, but that's basically why. So, alright, again, I wanted to do a different kind of background for once, and I'm kind of sick and tired of sitting on those stupid paint cans, you know. It's very uncomfortable. And in this room, outside the couch, there really isn't anything else I can actually sit on. There's not like an actual desk or anything. Yeah, so I will end the video here, guys. Thank you for watching, and let me know what your top 10, top 20 would be. I am going to make another video or 2 tonight, so I'm going to try and see how far I can get along before I get bored or tired and want to go back upstairs. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll talk to you later.